committee meeting to order, please, and it's 11:15. We're running just a tad late. So, Brother Joe, would you
Let's go to our God and pray. Ogi do da galandi hey, kohi ga ho to li he li do to dasani. Iski stella ni do hesta do to ni do kohi ga. Aga ye ni do na the access ti do hesta. Most gracious Heavenly Father, just thank you for a beautiful day and the opportunity to do business of the tribe. Just thank you for our leaders and thank you for the staff and all the people who made it possible to put this event together. And just guide and lead us as we make decisions on the better of the tribe. And just guide and lead us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now,
here.
Franklin Hargis. Neil Anglin.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Berg. Julia Coates. Jody Fishinghawk. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoffman. Tina. Present. Lee Keener. Duke Lay.
Here.
David Thornton.
Me.
David Walkingstick. Kara Cowan Watt. And John Masters.
Oh. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone for coming out today. Thank Bruce Davis and the Natural Resource team for putting this program on. And we're running a little late, and we'll move on down with our reports. Starting out with Management Resources, Bruce Davis.
First of all, I'd like to introduce Paula Hamley, my new administrative assistant. Most of you know Paula, but she's moved, so she's, if you can't get a hold of me during the day.
Mr. Chairman, before we start the report, I'd like to approve the minutes.
Yes. So ask approval of the minutes.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes passed. Bruce, you may continue your report.
I was just going to introduce Paula Hamley. Paula, would you raise your hand or stand, please? I'd like to welcome Paula to the Management Resources. This is just an update, hot off the press. I know you got your reports. Do you have any questions from Management Resources? This is the next item on the agenda, Curtis. I brought some pictures for that. We were asked at the last resource meeting to talk about the Veterans Center. I know it's next, so that's what we passed this out for.
Do you have any updates?
I brought pictures, Curtis, for the Veterans Center. That's the reason that. Okay.
Okay. Councilman Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bruce, I just wanted to confirm that someone will be coming to speak to the Collinsville Victory Cherokee organization next month.
Yes, certainly. Someone will be there, and we will. Depending on what you want us to bring, we'll bring some posters or information on the construction of that site, and we'll be there for your meeting.
Okay, I think the people there wanted any and all questions answered that they may have concerning the parking lot and the building itself. And there's a hog fry there the 27th of October, so they were concerned about the parking for that and how to get it affected. So
I visited with Buell a little earlier today, and we're going to take care of the fencing situation. We'll make sure it's mowed and have everything in order before we get there.
okay. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Watts.
Thank you. And on the parking, it's not just the single event. They have ongoing events which take considerable parking. So coordinating with the actual organization to make sure that we don't impact their monthly meetings and
Okay.
such. The other thing is, I did a FOIA request on equipment.
Huh?
When have we gotten into the hay business, and do we have a business case around that? Can you explain more about those purchases of equipment on hay equipment?
Sure.
And how much of our acreage it impacts that we're going to be haying?
I see Mr. Gwynn's here today. I'm going to let Mr. Pat Gwynn address that
I'm sorry?
hay equipment.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was doing something else. We did purchase a John Deere 458 round baler, a 10-inch rake, and a 10-foot rake and a 10-foot rotary mower. I don't have those cost figures in front of me, and I'll send you the price that we paid for those. As far as what we're doing with them is we have a number of tribal tracts that aren't leased and that have never been part of the lease pool, and we have a policy that has allowed tribal members to come on and bail those on like I said, it's a non-lease type of opportunity. Over the last couple of years, we've been having there's been some controversy surrounding that. And the problem is that when you have 5-10 acres of grass, it is valuable for hay, but it doesn't necessarily make economic sense to go through the bid process and get that bid out because it's not going to bring enough. It'd cost more in the bid process than it would bring it in. We also continue to have some issues with the Cherokee Heritage Center and the amount of hay that we were providing them. So it was just decided that with the end of year monies, we would purchase some hay equipment so we could take over those. I think we identified, Bruce, we've got 10 or 15 different small tracts that are currently fall into that particular that situation where they're too small to lease yet really too valuable not to utilize the resources off of. So this year, all of the agreements that we had with those folks, all of that hay went to the Heritage Center for their overwintering. Next year, we should be able to, we will take over all of those tracts ourselves. And we thought that was a really good way to maybe get our feet wet into some of the livestock issues that we're broaching the subject on right now.
Okay, so just what's on my mind is clear. We used end-of-year money that was out of existing budgets but had not been spent.
That is correct.
And I think for my FOIA it's about $150,000 for these 3 pieces of equipment and some other stuff, or?
That seems really high to me, real high.
And you can get me a list of these 10 to 15 small non-lease tracts that
Yes.
are going to be impacted. We're not going to be selling the hay. We're going to be giving it to the Heritage Center
Well,
to support their livestock.
We'll probably make more forage than the Heritage Center can use if we do all this ourselves. So we've already discussed that with both administration and FRB, and we're in the policy of we're in the process of making a policy for selling the hay if we do have excess.
Okay, and the policy will be public record, come back here, who approves it?
I'll have to let that be answered by someone above my pay grade, so
Okay.
sorry.
So if I could get a list of each of the tracts
Yeah.
with the description and acreage, and then the process for the policy to be created on any sale of hay,
Okay.
and then nobody needs licenses or special training to bale hay, I would assume, so.
No.
That I mean, there's not some federal guideline that I'm not anticipating. And where is this being stored at? And,
You can go look at it today if you'd like. It's right here behind the building.
okay, so after this, we'll go look at hay.
And I've got Miss Mary, Miss Mary Hicks is here. I'm thinking that was around 45. Does that sound?
42, 45.
Yeah, a little less than 45.
And was this bid out, and were taro vendors given a preference? Because I think we have tractor taro folks.
It was bid out. I don't know if we had a taro vendor, but if if I remember, I'm sorry, it was the end of the year, so we had a bunch of things. I think we had a taro, we may have had one taro vendor, but it was in excess of the 5 or 10%.
Can you give me the records on the bid process and stuff,
Mhm.
whatever that involves? Thank you very much. And I still have questions for Bruce on a separate subject.
Bruce, would you like to answer?
Kurt, I have one question.
Let her,
If it's pertaining to this, but I would just like to come, I will yield a moment, but I want to come back for another.
I just want
Connie?
all information that's sent out, send that to the whole council.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Is it okay if I just send it to Gail or Shelley to have her?
Make copy for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Bruce, just really quick on the Veterans Center.
Mhm.
I think it was at the last meeting, I was trying to, that's going to include, because it's not spelled out, so I don't want to assume anything.
Okay.
But that's going to include Coast Guard, right? It's 5, Army, Navy.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay, so,
And did you see the quote on that? On this handout that I gave you?
okay, and then on the, yes, so I just want to make sure that we weren't misinterpreting anything, that there wasn't something. So on Daniel Horse Chief, Daniel does an exceptional job on our statues.
Yes.
Before we get mad artists,
Okay.
has this been bid out? Or
No, not
we're
yet.
still
No.
sourcing
We
to
just
Daniel Horse
contact
Chief?
him. We've tried to contact him. We'd love to use him if we can, but he hasn't responded back to us yet.
But this will be a public bid open to
Yes.
all artists, Cherokee Nation citizens who are artists?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. And I brought pictures today, so these are renderings of the Veteran Center that hopefully it will look like that when we finish it.
Okay, but again, it will be on the public website, open for bid for all Cherokee Nation citizen artists, and
Yes,
not
ma'am.
just Daniel Horse Chief.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My name.
Jeanette.
Okay. I can convey to you that I sit by Daniel Horse Chief at church every Sunday, and I can tell him.
That'd be great.
I'll tell him to get in contact with
That would be great. Okay?
Council Lady Watts?
No, how about Council Lady Jordan? I think you're looking my way.
Council Lady Jordan?
Okay. There was a lady that came by the council house, and I tried to get her over to you. Maybe she hadn't made it there yet.
Okay.
She's also interested in bidding on the statutes, and I think
Okay.
she already had some mocked up.
Okay.
I can't remember what her name was, though.
She met with Council Lay and she met
Remember
with
her name?
That
Deputy
lady's
Chief.
name?
I don't remember, but she
Okay.
had some drawings as well, so.
Okay, good. Good. We're interested.
Maybe you could call Gail, because I think
Okay.
Gail got her name and address.
All right, sounds good. I just want to make one comment, man. I want to thank all the natural resources people that are here. Would y'all raise your hand? Natural resources? Okay. Thank them for putting this on today. The other thing is, I just want to make the comment that these people, these small leases that we have or that we don't lease, we have to brush hog them anyway. And some of them, you know, with the hay, the way it's been the last 2 years, you know, we could have sold everything that we could bale. So that's why we wanted to check into this project, okay?
I've had to write checks for some of that hay, so I
Okay.
understand what you're saying.
I understand.
Yes. Mr. Walkenstick?
Hey, Bruce, what's the possibility on this hay is providing a service for Cherokees to get this hay at a reasonable cost for Cherokee farmers?
I think-
Is that a possibility?
It sure is, David. When we work on this policy, I think that needs to be implemented for our Cherokee people to be able to purchase hay at a minimal cost. So that's what we're looking at. Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Mr. Davis?
Hey, just one comment. Hay that they're going to use and not resell.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay, and Curtis, I might add, there's a typo on that agenda. That's not Erica Hart, that's Miss Ginger Brown.
Okay. Moving on down to real estate services, Mr. Ginger Brown.
Mhm.
We have the real estate
Services agenda or the report right before you. If you have any questions, I will certainly be happy to answer them or get you an answer. Yes.
Yes, Kara.
Thank you, Chairman. Claremore Federal Building, and I may have needed to have started with Bruce, actually. So Bruce's department had sent us an estimate of what it would take to rehabilitate their rehab the whole facility, asbestos, mold, whatever was going on. However, the root issue is in real estate and on the title of the property. And this will be our monthly question, Ginger. So where are we at with that? And
The decision to take the trust has been received, updates were submitted, and we are now awaiting the deed, and I think that's status quo as it has been for some time.
okay, and so they still have not given us title, but we have continued to push to receive the property in trust for the
Correct.
tribe.
Correct, and we're just awaiting that answer.
Is your department contacted them recently?
On a monthly basis, yes, ma'am.
Perfect, right before this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you, Ginger.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
How many tribes are using that hospital? Different tribes.
How many tribes are using the
How
hospital?
many's involved in it?
I don't know. I'm thinking 4, but I can get you an answer to that. I don't know.
Okay, I'd like to know.
I'm sure there's more than that.
I hear 17, maybe.
At Claremore.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We're talking about the Claremore Federal
Claremore,
Building, which is a separate issue from the Claremore Indian Hospital
I'm talking about
jurisdiction. And it would be
Indian Hospital.
17 tribes have ownership in the advisory board for the Indian Hospital. But the federal government owns it.
Thank you. It's going to hold the 6 points. Thank you.
Yes, Bill, Mr. Angler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ginger, where are we at in the process of trust status on the land, the property in Collinsville? Do you know where that stands?
I don't have an answer for you, but I can get that answer for you.
Okay, if you could you?
Okay. I'll send it to all of you then.
That'll work.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Ginger, what's our deadline on that King's project?
We still have about a year to go on it. We are at 65%. And the numbers were provided for you in the report.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did that. I hadn't seen the numbers yet, and so we're about 5,000 files out.
4835. We're moving right along on it, actually.
How many people have we got going out into the county offices to get that information?
We have at least 2 to 3 every week that are out there, and we have 7 people working on it, as well as some of our real estate specialists. 3 do 10 files a week. They prepare 10 files a week for review.
And scan them in and
Yes.
get them.
Yes, and we're also getting a new scanner from the DRA. That should be here this week. And more equipment from them.
So we're on track to probably get that done.
Yes, ma'am.
So the 7 employees are responsible for 10 files a week, each one.
No, they're responsible for more than that. That's the 10 specific employees.
Right.
And then we have the other employees that work in real estate in addition to their other work, to do at least 10 files a week for review.
Will that bring our title plant totally up to date?
Of course, it will be a continuous effort, but yes, we hope so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I'm learning as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, actually, if you go back and look, I created the title plant for you under a contract with the government. That's why I'm interested in it, because a lot of this is updated.
That's great.
Are you doing it by county?
No, as we receive it from the DRA.
That's years ago. That's probably been 20 years ago. We
We
did
hope to
that.
get it to a point where we can.
We did that with the Cherokees and the Greeks when they contracted out from the government. It's interesting.
That is interesting.
Thank you.
We have more questions for Ginger.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Moving on down to environmental programs, Tom Elkins.
Good morning. Mr. Elkins couldn't make it this morning, so he asked me to step into this place. If you have any questions regarding his report or anything else, I'd be happy to take it.
Have any questions on environmental? Yes, sir.
Thank you. I had talked to Tom and as well as Connie Davis about issues at the American school.
Mhm.
So I still don't have a response back, at least when I checked email a couple of hours ago, concerning who had physically been on site to figure out what was burning the kids' eyes and the teachers' eyes. And I know you guys have done testing, and I really appreciate it. But I guess there continues to be a problem, so we're trying to figure out how to address it.
Yeah, the timeline on that was we were called out in late July, and we tested some of the interior classrooms, and we really didn't discover any high levels of mold. We went out a few weeks later and actually drilled into some of the exterior wall cavities. In one of those samples, we've got a hit for Stachybotrys, which is a type of mold that usually grows in a pretty damp environment. So that suggested that there was some structural flaws in the building. That was the only involvement that our office had. It was my understanding that facilities was going to work with the contractors you guys had with Redbird Smith to do some follow-up. So Bruce may have some more information.
And I don't know if it needs to be a combination of folks. At the end of the day, the parents are describing the kids coming home with red eyes, burning sensation, as if there's a strong odor in the room, and it's also affecting the teachers. So I'm at a loss. Who needs to be responsible for it, and how to drill down to get it done? So I don't know if all three, environmental, natural resources, and health, need to coordinate. But there seems to still be an issue despite whatever, and I understand we brought in bird grass and some outside folks, and I really appreciate that. There's still something there. I don't know what it is, but I'd like follow-up and know, like, by the end of the week, if you physically have gone over to experience whether there's that odor, strong odor there or not, and really interview the kids and the teachers.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
We did call in an outside source, Burgraff. Actually, I have been in the building and under the building. The building is built on, just on the dirt, and they surrounded the building with fill and put the sod grass on top of it. So it acts as a pond underneath that building, and it stays moist all the time. We've done some corrections with our drainage, some leakage problems that we had, and also it's the old casino building. If you understand, if you open the closet door, you're going to smell the smoke from the old casino building. And it's, we spent money, and the testing was the air quality inside the building was better than the outside of the building. And so we just got that report late Friday, so I'll give everyone a copy of that and get it to you. But we've got some issues at the emergency school that we've got to address, so that's something that we'll keep the council apprised on.
So do we have any plans to maybe move them? I think, because I didn't think the original plans were to keep them there. I'm trying to remember what the original strategy was on where they were going to be housed. Do we have any temporary plans for them, or?
I actually met with Chief Baker Friday, and we discussed those issues and possibility of moving the children to another site. So, this is Monday after Friday, so hopefully we'll know something by this week.
I don't know if anybody else is getting phone calls. I'm sure the whole council would probably appreciate the update. But if we could do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. I'll take care of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Tom.
The original plan always was that was going to be temporary, and when we built a new casino at Tahlequah, they were to get the existing casino. That was where the emerging school was to be moved to. And now that we're not building the new casino at Tahlequah, this means that we're gonna have to move them. We never planned to keep them there permanently.
No.
So we're gonna have to make a facility change at some point. That was the original plan. That plan has changed now, so I don't know what we're gonna do next.
We discussed that Friday. So that's with Mr. Qualls and myself, and Tom's been involved in it in facilities. So we're trying to stay on top of it.
And I know that Chief Baker decided not to build the Tahlequah Casino, and we have that 20 acres, but I hope we don't build an immersion school at the 20 acres to later try to build a casino. So there would be some planning. Thank you.
Actually, that wasn't Chief Baker that made that decision. That was a CNB decision, a business decision based on their updated business model. But I don't know how Joe feels or Dave feels. I'm still open to a new casino if they want to build one.
Sure, more jobs.
Yeah, we'd like jobs in our county too.
Councilor Word?
Yes, the only phone call I got was the health director, Connie, and I talked to the superintendent of schools there about the immersion building. And Bruce, I want to thank you for taking action and looking above and under. You actually physically went and looked for yourself.
Yes, I did.
So we thought about closing the school that day, but I think you guys addressed it. And those temporary buildings we're talking about, the life of those folks been what, 3 years? How long have they been there?
8.
8? Council members, how come we let it go past 5? They've been there 8. So it's time to take action if it's affecting our immersion kids.
Right.
But thank you for doing a good job.
Welcome, Joe.
Any more questions on environmental? Yes, Dave.
Yes, water quality testing for
Yes,
the
sir.
Illinois River.
Uh-huh.
Is there any way we could get a couple of tests below the 10-killer dam down to the
I believe
Arkansas River?
Ryan's working on getting that taken care of. I think he's right. He wrote that into his work plan for this coming fiscal year, so I'll have him follow up with you on that, exactly what points and where he's going to pull those at.
Thank you.
You got it.
Any more questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Moving on down to the residence building update, I think you pretty well did that, Bruce.
I brought pictures and a timeline on that. And we talked about the statues, so that's what we're working on right now.
Anybody have any questions for Bruce? Thank you, Bruce. Moving on down to old business. TMP 183, Kara or Lee?
I'll take that one.
Yes, sir. That's Lee.
I think due to time, we have a short amount of time. We can table it this time, and that's what I moved.
Second.
I would like to ask that, I know everyone's been sent the copy, but would it be out of line to request written or copies that we can set in front of the council so that maybe next month we can talk about it and everyone can look at the same thing?
Yes, I think we can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that. Next month we can bring it back and we'll be ready to complete it.
Okay, good. That sounds good to me.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we want to table it for today.
Yes, sir.
Got a motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on down to resolution number 12119. Tyler?
This is a resolution authorizing the Cherokee Nation to transfer title to 1 acre to the Cherokee County Commissioners. And we tabled this last month, and I believe Linda Donaldson is somewhere. Where am I? Okay. Linda has some additional information for us. It's my understanding that we may not own this after all, that it's just trying to correct a collateral title for the county. So I'm going to turn it over to Linda.
Right, when we first looked at this, we didn't have the total deed. The information we have was just a partial. We finally have managed to found all the pieces of the deeds that we needed. And it turns out that Chief Rogers back in 1918, somewhere around there, he transferred title to that Mount Zion church property over to Mount Zion. And the way the act was, it said that if the conveyance had not been made by the time it was abandoned, then it would revert. But the Mount Zion was in operation at the time of conveyance, and therefore the reversionary act would not go into place. So basically, Cherokee Nation did sign over the acre to Mount Zion Church. Mount Zion was in operation, and when it decided to close down, it turned the property over to District 22, Cherokee County, State of Oklahoma, for school purposes. And later on, I believe that discontinued. So from the way the record looks, it is District 22, State of Oklahoma, for school purposes. That's the ownership of the property right now. But Commissioner Botts, I have talked to him, and his problem is that when he's talked to the state, they feel like Cherokee Nation may have a potential reversionary interest in that property. So the Cherokee County Commissioners would like to have a quitclaim deed from Cherokee Nation, just so that they don't feel like they have a title issue with this property. And that's where we're at.
What
Yeah.
what, or I yield to, yeah. What school district is that in? Is that a dependent or independent school district?
It doesn't say. It just said it was District 22, and it's been gone for a long time.
That was Mount Zion School District?
It was in that area, yes.
I think I understand what David's saying. I can probably answer his question.
Lost City?
No.
I mean, it's some similar to Lost City.
Well, actually, if it reverted to another school because it was no longer a dependent school, that's Calico School District.
That's Calico, so Calico would have to, it would be consolidated into Calico School District.
They may be trying to get a deed from Calico too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where their next is, trying to get it from the school system or from the state. You know, how you look at the ownership issue. But they're basically asking Cherokee Nation if we could quit claim, so that if the state feels like Cherokee Nation has any reversionary interest, that is taken off the table and they can then go into it. Because the county commissioners do want to remove the old building, which I understand has fallen in. Sounds like just within a few weeks, it has gone from having a roof on it to the roof having fallen in, and it has steadily gotten worse. And they're afraid that people who visit the cemetery, the kids are going to go over to that area and maybe get hurt. So they want to take away all of that old school debris, church, school, and burn it, cart it off, whatever, so that it's gone, and then expand the cemetery out into that area.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Yes. Okay.
What, do we know what use the county's gonna make out of it?
Cemetery.
Could I?
Yes, please.
There's actually about 2 acres there, and half or maybe 3/4 of it's already a cemetery, and then they want to clean the other part off, and the cemetery's full, well, pretty full. They want to make the rest of it into a cemetery, expand out the cemetery, so that they can continue burying people there. And if we don't go this direction, then somebody's going to have to clean that area off, because it right now is a hazard for people. Stop there all the time, and they're going into the building that's fixing to collapse. I don't know what their business is in the building, but it's become a hazard. It's just probably a mile or 2 from my house.
I have a great tendency not to want to give the state a cemetery. We've all seen these old cemeteries tombstones bulldozed off and the building plopped down on top of them later. I don't think these county commissioners would do that. 50 years from now, maybe somebody else.
Yeah.
So I want to have to vote no.
Now, we don't own the cemetery part.
I understand.
I don't,
Yes,
my understanding on this is that we probably want to have a say in deeding this over to the county. I think that since it's an independent school district, the independent school district that is in the area would take control over that, which would be Talco Public Schools, and they'd be the one that have to do the claim, the deed, what is it, what do you call it? Yeah, quick claim process, so it may not be my call.
I would go ahead and put that in the form of a motion, just, I don't guess we did put it in the form of a motion so we could discuss it.
yes, Lee.
Well, it'd be probably want to put it in a motion first, and let's discuss that.
Can you put that in motion?
I'll go ahead and put that in motion form. I guess I probably didn't do that right to start with.
Frank seconds the motion. And got any discussion? Yes, Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is that we're still unsure of who is entitled to this 1 acre, and if we did a quick claim, would that preclude taking the reversionary part out of that? I think we still need some more help from the real estate to know exactly what we're going to do.
Ginger, can you take that?
Linda, you want to address that?
Linda, can you help us?
Linda's been working on it also for several months.
Well, the issue is, since we don't really own it to begin with, we don't really have a right to ask for a reversionary interest in it now.
But why do a quick claim if we don't?
The quick claim is just so that they don't, it's just for the comfort of the county.
But if we don't own it, in case we did own it?
In case you did own it, you could put that in there that you want a reversionary interest if they want to take your quick claim like that. But otherwise, you can actually just do nothing and just let the county deal with it as it is.
Councilor Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During the last meeting, I understood that there would be a reversion. There were several of us that were concerned about it, and there was going to be a reversionary claim even in our portion of the quick claim or as clarifying that there would be a reversionary deal. So I cannot support it if that's not in there, because that's what I recall from the last meeting would be part of the legislation. And you're saying what I heard you say was different, that it won't be in there.
Right. Well, the reversionary interest is going to be in there if we considered that we had an ownership in the property and the right to transfer it out. But from looking at the deeds that have been done, Cherokee Nation gave up its rights and didn't give a deed to Mount Zion with the reversionary interest in it. It just deeded it straight out to Mount Zion with no reversionary interest claim.
Mr. Chairman, that's not what I understood from the last meeting, so I'm not clear at this point how to proceed. Given that, I just can't support it. Thank you.
David?
Yeah, I would like to know what the motion is. I've heard 2 or 3 different deals on this, so I would like to know what the motion actually is.
You explain the motion.
The motion should give a quick claim deed to the county on this approximate 1 acre that's located there in Cherokee County, and then they would take it from there, clearing it off and extending out the cemetery. And
Was this
it doesn't
laid
matter.
in trust?
To be quite honest with you, it doesn't matter to
It's not
me
in
whether
trust?
we do it or don't do it,
I don't see any reason to do it.
but someone's gonna have to clean it off. So it's either gonna be us or the county, or I don't know what, I think that eventually there's gonna be a lawsuit over what happens there.
Not, Is this land in trust?
No, it's not.
Was everybody mind, well, partially?
Yeah,
The,
that's okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm still very unclear on this, and I could not vote to support this either, but I don't understand the lawsuit. If we don't own it and there's a lawsuit, I mean, that's bad for whoever gets sued, but why are we dabbling in someone else's business, I guess? And I think it was 1917 when Chief Rogers passed away, so it had been that time, so.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but just read. So I'm just not clear in my mind either what we're doing.
Curtis.
Yes, ma'am. Will you translate it?
Yes, sir, thank you.
I'm fine with tabling it if Linda can give us any more information next month.
Second.
I got a motion second on the table. Right here. Yay, the table?
Aye.
All opposed? This item is tabled for next semester. Moving on down, I have a PowerPoint presentation by Bailey Hardy. Yes.
At the request of Councilman Curtis Snell, we're going to withdraw this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Withdraw this. Moving on down, thank you. Moving on down to new business. Item number 12, 127. Frankie Harder, could you take this, please?
This is a resolution authorizing the Cherokee Nation to lease tribal trust land to CC Camp Community Organization in Adair County. Make a motion.
I've got a motion second. Any discussion? Yes, Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to ask the question of why we're moving it from 1 year to year to 25-year lease. What's the rationale for that?
If you're asking me, I honestly do not know.
You know, real estate people, you want to answer that?
I would suggest that this group takes care of that building better than just about anybody. There's 6.4 acres tribal trust land on that, and this community is organized, as Councilwoman Hargis can attest to. And instead of coming to you every year, we wanted to do this as a 25-year lease because they take such good care of that property down there.
Thank you.
Yes, Gary, I think you first.
Actually, it was, you just weren't looking this way, David. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I totally appreciate the work that our community groups do for these properties and such. I'm not as familiar with the CC Camp Community Organization, but is there something in place, should the individuals that really lead that organization and do the work, something happen to them or they stop doing that work? What happens to this lease? Is there a reversion deal? I mean, how do we protect both them, their organization, their interests, and ours via this legislation? I don't see a lot of details about how they're held accountable and what we're accountable to them for the lease. And I appreciate the longevity of the lease. I think we need to give them some kind of knowledge that they're in a safe place for a while. That helps the volunteers commit and do the work and provide their own resources and time and money and energy. But then also, there's no individuals named in this. I'm assuming on this that they are a nonprofit. Are they recognized under state law or tribal law as a nonprofit? Who would be the ownership? I mean, who's going to oversee the maintenance? I have a lot more questions than just what's on paper. I think there's a good framework here, but I think there's a lot more that needs to be brought forward.
Here, let's let Joe make his comment.
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with that community, and actually, if one person was to get ill, they are truly a community. I mean, anybody there would step up because they got enough brothers and sisters and uncles. This is truly a community. And but I do agree with your concern on the longevity of it. I would, if Frankie would take a friendly amendment, I would amend that we go 7 years, just so we do protect our communities, and that way we still stay in control. You would accept that?
Yes, I accept that.
So,
Yes, Carrie, yourself.
yeah, so I guess, and that does address a little bit concern, but I'm not opposed to 25 years as long as, you know, I think it behooves, like, for this organization, they need to understand what that structure, process, and policy is for how we're going to interact, for all of us to keep our commitments to each other, you know. And I'm not seeing that in this, unless somebody can point it out, I'm not seeing it in this legislation or the resolution.
Yes.
I would ask the body to consider this. They need the 25-year lease in order to get community funds to do repairs on the building through CATA. And I would suggest to you that's why they're asking for a 25-year lease, because we just went through this at Halbert, where they had to have a minimum of a 25-year lease in order to be able to apply for the grants through our
Community Works
Department. So I would ask for you to consider possibly putting that 25 years back on it, or they're not going to be able to get any money to help their community.
Okay.
This is a very organized community organization. I mean, they're families, they're neighbors, they're committed to this project. So, and although there's another community building just a few miles down the road, this one addresses a whole different section of that community. So I understand what Sarah's saying as far as the wanting to have some language there to protect Cherokee Nation as well as the group. So I think we do need to have that, but I do hope you'll approve this for the 25-year lease so they can get that CATA assistance.
Carrie, I think you cut off.
Okay, so maybe a different approach is, Mr. Davis, can your group bring a written policy? Because they're not the only group. This is, I mean, we've got groups are all in just, I think, to Speaker Jordan's point.
Okay.
Is there a written policy around who carries insurance? Can we partner with the tribe on insurance? Who gets the betterment? Who owns it? What's expected? And it may need to be tailored by group depending on the property, but I think that needs to be in place, and it needs to be public information so that we all are on the same page. Because I get to work in Rogers County, in Tulsa, on a different side of the fence as a member, and there's still a lot of questions around these things. So if we could have something that maybe instead of being in the resolution, if it's just a written known policy and we get agreement signed outside of the legislative branch where it's all clear, that would help make sure that we're on the same page and fulfilling.
Okay, and we've been working on those.
Okay, is that something you can bring next month?
Yes.
At least a draft of what it looks like?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so can we put that on the agenda then? Okay, so just for this legislation, it stays the same with the 25-year lease, right? Okay, thank you.
Bruce, did you have a comment?
I was just answering.
Do we have a yes, Mr. Wright.
One more question. I wonder, when did the 25-year status come in? Is it a policy guideline? Is it an act council made? Or does anybody?
I think since this new, and I'm not saying it's new, but this grant proposal situation that they want at least a 25-year contract for these people to apply for this money, and that way they will know that those people are going to be in charge of that project for that many years, so they'll know it's been taken care of. So as far as a new policy, Dick, I'm not sure that that's something new. I just noticed that's something that we're facing right now.
Bruce, that'd be a thought question.
Right, right.
I said, that would be a COTA question. They're the ones, they took over the community buildings just this past year, so we hadn't had leases on all the buildings, so it's one thing we're putting together. We've been working for the past couple months with COTA, trying to figure out who has the insurance. We got a list last month of what all community buildings were on USN Trust property and all the list of other community buildings, so it should be one of those where we could all get together and work on it.
I wonder if we can go through these policies first before we vote on this. I mean,
This one, I think they need this approval because they're getting ready to apply for this COTA grant, and there's a deadline to do that.
How close are we to it, you know?
Within about 6 weeks, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, that would be
They're
COTA group, I
barely
would know
gonna
the answer.
get this in so that they can make their application.
if this is just simply a policy guideline that could be reduced to 10 years or something like that.
You could probably put anything you wanted to put in there. I mean, as
So
far as that
who
goes.
put the policy guideline of 25 years is what I'm asking.
Who put it together? I mean, it's just kind of like what Bruce said. They're investing, $25,000, $50,000 into a building, into a community, and a year from now, we don't want to have to go through the paperwork to get it done again. New members come in. You do a 25-year long-term lease, and I mean, I'm sure it has to be depending on the community, because some communities don't, community buildings don't last that long. But I think, like Ms. Hardy said, this is a special group,
long-term group anyway.
Right. So, yes.
What do you think? Whatever you want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that is news to me. I'm glad that Councilman Lay asked that question because there are a lot of groups that have applied for COTA grants and received them who don't have a building or a 25-year lease. And then there's groups that have buildings with not a long-term lease like that. So I guess I'm questioning if that is a new policy along with Councilman Lay too. We just need more information from COTA on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think the way I'm understanding it is, if it gets passed today, then they don't get the grant. I mean, the time period is a big issue. Another question? We had a motion and a second. Is everybody's minds clear what we're voting on?
Yes.
Okay. Right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Moving on down to item number 12, 128. Frankie?
This is a resolution authorizing the approval of housing leases, the USA and tribal land in Delaware County to family members of the descendants of Jenny Birdchopper and Joe Foreman. And I'll let Ginger or Linda explain this.
This property reverted back to us, and we need leases on these houses. There's family members living out there, and that's why we needed a lease on this. For further information, I think Linda has been working on this for a couple of years now, haven't you, Linda? If you have any questions between the two of us, we can answer them.
Like a second.
Make a motion in a second. Further questions? Yes, Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to make sure my mind's clear, we're not giving up any ownership. This is just the lease of the home.
Yes, this is to allow community services to do repair. You're correct, and it's to allow community services to do repairs through that community work.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Lee?
Thank you, Chair. And it says long-term lease, it doesn't have any years specified. Is that right?
As far as I know, there's not a number.
It has to have 25, is that right? 25. 25 years.
But that's not in the act, is it in the narrative?
It doesn't appear to be, no, sir.
Okay, I'm curious as why we want to make good decisions, as a body, but we don't get enough information sometimes. And I'm not pointing anyone out, but the last resolution or act was the same way, so it would really benefit all of us if we had all the information. But I'm not sure who would be in charge of that, but...
Understood, we'll work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Allen?
On this particular lease, it has to be 25 years because you're using federal funding. And so it has to be a 25-year lease to use the federal funds on this site.
Well, then I'd make a friendly amendment if I could interject here. Because it says long-term leasing. You want to put 25 years in there?
I think, could I expand on it? The reason they did not put the 25 years in there is because it has to be sometimes signed for 26, but you don't start the work until within a year. So sometimes it's not just 25 years. We had this same problem down at the Housing Authority. Sometimes you had to give them a year to get it started, and it still had to be 25 from that point. Now, I don't know if that has changed or not, but that used to be that's why they wouldn't put an exact amount in there.
Well, then is there any reason we could put 25 from the start of something?
As long as that's the rules for the feds now. Somebody might want to check that and see. Because this is federal funds that's being used on this. Is that right, Linda?
I think this one,
Yeah.
You have a friendly amendment?
Well, I would sure like to vote for this if we could change that wording in there, 25 years from the start, some starting point. If that has to be 25 years.
Do we have to have BIA approval?
Can we do that,
We have to
Linda?
get approval for
Yeah, it
that.
has to be approved by the BIA. Will I guess this is the question we need to ask, will the BIA approve the resolution if it just states 25 years? Because I know in those leases, it's 25 plus extensions if they do certain things. And so if you put 25 years on this resolution, are you going to have to come back later when the family asks for an extension? Because I think it's got 3 kicker extensions on those things, doesn't it, Linda? They get automatic extensions on these.
You can do 25 years and ask for an option for another 25.
And I think that's probably what's in this lease. So if we do just a flat 25-year resolution, we've cut them off from the extension, haven't we?
That's right.
So with the option to renew. So with the option to renew on there, yeah, that'd be fine. Okay.
That's your friendly amendment?
Yes, sir.
You accept it for discussion? Frankie?
Is the BIA going to accept it if we change this, is what I need to know.
Well, we wouldn't know, we'd have to submit it.
If you do a option to renew on it for an additional term of years, then the BIA will be fine with it.
So if we changed it instead of long-term lease to 25 years with option to renew, they will accept it.
They will accept that.
Okay, I'll accept the amendment.
Now we have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor of this?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on down to item 4. David, you're up.
Yeah. This is a resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation Real Estate Services to negotiate and/or advertise the bid to lease Chilocco tribal land in New Turk, Oklahoma for units on fee and trust land and to waive the bond. The tenant must secure a bond. However, the bond can be waived by a tribal resolution. I'd like to put this in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Yes, Mr. Baker.
Is it normal to waive the bond on these leases at Chilocco? Because we've had them in the past. I guess I'll address Linda since she's worked on them in the past.
Yes, it has been normal to waive the bond. However, whenever there has been a new lessee that we have not been familiar with, we have required the bond. If we were familiar with them and had dealings with them in the past, they have been a good payer and had no problem, then yes, we have asked that the bond be waived. But usually if they were new, we've had them do the bond. It's just one way of getting familiar with them and whether they're going to be a good payer or not.
But the way the resolution is now, it says we will waive the bond. It doesn't say for some and not for others or for
Right,
existing
that's right.
lease holders. It just says we'll waive the bond entirely. So I'm not comfortable with waiving the bond entirely for everybody or anybody. So thank you, Linda.
Here, answer my question. I'm good.
Yes, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So should it state on there that waive the bond at the discretion of realty or natural resources?
It can say it that way to make it more clear that gives them the idea that you're not always going to have your bond waived.
Okay. Would the motion and the second accept that addition of that wordage or the verbiage that after waive the bond at the discretion of Cherokee Nation Realty?
Yes, I said.
Does the second?
So we're not gonna bring it back to the council because now it says it can be waived by tribal resolution, so you don't want it to come back to us?
The way that I was reading it was that it just waives it, period, once we pass this. And Linda's shaking her head, yes, that's the way it is.
I would rather, instead of leaving it to a department, I would rather it come back to us whenever we're gonna waive a bond.
That's even better.
I mean, I like that idea better.
The resolution says that,
That way we're trying to keep control of it.
Yeah.
Can Chairman Snell? So I don't know. It sounds like I didn't get an acceptance from the second, but there's other language that we may entertain in just a moment. So my other concern is it doesn't name the individuals, and that leaves that open, but it not only does it, in lieu of naming individuals, it should name the process that individuals will obtain or determine the lease for the agricultural use. I mean, there's no mineral rights involved here, it's just agricultural use is the way I read it.
That's correct.
So it alludes to that there may be already individuals that are chosen or leasing it or can lease it, but they're not named. Are we just blanket leaving this out for folks to get leases and not have, I mean, is this a sweet deal for somebody? I mean, it looks pretty vague to me.
Well, this will be a bid out deal. It says to negotiate or bid, but more than likely it's going to be bid. To mail out to several people, let them bid in, and then through the selection process of who is the highest bidders, you determine who is, whether they're people that have been there before or whether they're new people.
Okay, so it is not, because I saw differing language within the way I interpret it when I read it. So it is just in preparation for the next upcoming leases, and it's really about the bond issue.
Right. The next lease cycle will begin soon.
July.
It's soon because it's June 30th is when it ends. June 30th of 2012 is the end of this lease cycle. And so July 1st of 2013 will be the new lessees will go into place. So usually by by February or March, we'll start the bid process for the new lessees to find out who's going to be in and give time for changeover if it needs to be. Because these people are doing crops, and they have to know ahead of time as to who's going to have it for their crop cycle.
So my one question's been answered, but I'm still looking for some language around the bond for support of the legislation. I don't know if our attorneys at the table may have some suggestions, or the author, or sponsors.
I like to make amendments as well to take out the negotiate and just put bid only, and that way there is no sweet deals going on, and it's open, it's fair game, and go ahead and keep waiting the bond in there. So just remove negotiate. And I'll put that in form of motion.
Let me make sure I understand what he's wanting to do, but I think I want to do the second. He wants to take out at the top to negotiate and/or, and it'll just say to advertise for bid. And then down on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 whereas, or 5th whereas, I guess, he wants to add in, up on a request for waiving a bond, that the request be submitted back to the council. Is that what you were asking for?
Correct.
And I would second that.
Do we have any questions on this? Yes, Dick.
On the amendment or the whole thing?
Removing the negotiation.
I have other questions.
I've got you up next. I have you up next.
Okay, let me go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Which property is this? I mean, the east side, west side, how many acres are you talking about? 4,300. On
Both sides of the road.
Both sides?
Yeah.
Both sides of the road, and the west side is separated?
Yeah, if you go into Chilocco, our property, you have the other tribes that come through here. If you go to your right, what road was that, Kathy? What road that was? I don't know the name of the road, but we own property on both sides. We own right at 4,300 acres. Units, what are we, Trent? Jamie, somebody help me out.
Here you go. There's 9 tracks.
Well, I was trying to figure out which units were on the side of the road.
Well, there's an east side of our land of Chilocco, there's a west side.
Right.
Those are separated by other tribal.
Yeah, the Otoe, Missouri, and Pawnee have land in.
So this is the total package?
Yes.
And so it leases out to one person?
No, there's 9 separate units.
9 units. And most of that is farm ground?
Yes, the majority of it. We have one piece that's got a little grazing on it, another piece that's used only for hay, and the rest of it's for crops.
And what kind of money have we been getting from that? Anybody know?
Around $180,000 a year. $183,431.05 to be exact.
Councilor Walkenstick mentioned something a while ago. If Cherokee leases this property, we could waive the bond. If a non-Indian leases it, they can come up with a bond. I don't know who was concerned with bonding a while ago, but I'll throw that out to you. I heard him say it, and I kind of like the idea.
We have Cherokee preference on our leases right now. Anyway, if you are a Cherokee and you bid the same as a non-Cherokee, Cherokee automatically gets the bid. I mean, and the majority of the people that lease our units now have been in the game so long that if I was a non-Cherokee, I would have somebody else on the list with me. I mean, that's where it has gone to.
And I heard that we were going to mail out invitations to bid.
We'll run it in the paper.
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
We'll do both. I mean, there's several things we'll do. We have our current lessees that will get notice. We'll run it in the paper. We'll put up flyers at the sale barn. We'll put flyers at the NRCS office, FSA office in Newkirk. So,
What do we demand from the leasing? Keep fences up? Maybe
there's only two units that really have fencing issues. The rest of it's cropland that is, taken care of that way.
I've got two more questions here.
If we want to come back and use that property for something else, we got to wait till the end of the 5 years.
No, there's a clause on every one of our leases that the Cherokee Nation, can take the lease back at any time.
We pay them the money back, I guess.
We'd figure out, because they pay a year ahead, so if we took it back in July, we'd give them half a year back, so.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Councilman Thorpe?
Yes, sir. Just to kind of clear my mind up here, what do we have to bond on it in the first place?
Well before my time. Yeah, if you fail to pay, then we collect on their bond.
It makes a security type bond.
Right.
Why would we want to take it off? They're going to pay up front?
They will pay the first year. If they go in July, the lease starts in July, they'll have to have it paid probably by the end of April. The first year's lease will be paid by the end of April.
And they're not paying it up front?
They're paying the first year's lease up front.
Okay. And then
they're not paying the full 5 years
after that?
Huh?
Do they lease it for 10 years, 25?
Five-year leases. Yes.
And they're not paying for after that?
They'll, whenever the lease comes,
until the year gets
right, they'll get an invoice, like our tribal leases that we have here, our local tribal leases, they start in January 1st. Invoices generally go out the 1st of October. So they have a 3-month window that we're going to let you know 3 months ahead of time that you need to pay.
Are there not any gas wells on that property?
We have 3 wells. 4 now. We got an injection well called the Becker well, and on the east side we have 3 current.
What's happened with the windmill power?
That is well above my where I'm at.
Isn't that where we just want to put a power program up there with windmills and produce electricity?
Would you like to address that one? From discussions with C&D on the windmill issue is that it would not, other than the time period where they would be putting up the towers, if and when they do, when they go out and construct the platforms and put up the towers, that's the only time that it would disrupt any planning cycles or cattle operation of the lessees out there. And C&D would be responsible for paying any damages to these lessees while they're out there. But otherwise, once these windmills, once they're out there are in place, you can have cattle or you can have crops growing underneath them without a problem, if they can continue on with the leases.
Well, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I think if they set a bond before and it's up to 5 years, that we need to keep the bond, and I'm going to be voting no.
Councilor Lady Watts.
I just need to clarify, when you say newspaper, is that just the Talaga Daily Press?
No,
just the Cherokee Phoenix, or are you going to cover all 14 counties?
We haven't ever covered all 14 counties. We could. We'll run it in the Cherokee Phoenix. We'll run it in the Ponca City paper and the Newkirk paper. Everything up in the K County area, we'll run it in those areas. I mean.
And that sounds more appropriate. I just want to make sure it wasn't just the Southland Daily
No,
Press.
it will be ran.
Okay, that sounds appropriate. Thank you
Yeah.
for the clarification.
Thank you. We're going to vote on the resolution. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
Gil Anglin,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Joe Burr,
Yes.
Julia Coates. Debbie Fishing Hart, Meredith. Janelle Fulbright.
Yes.
Frankie Hargis.
Yes.
Tina.
Yes.
Lee Keener.
No.
Dick Lay.
Yes.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
David Thornton.
No.
David Walkingston.
Yes.
Kara Cowan.
No.
7 yes. 5 no.
Motion carries. Moving on down to number 4. This is a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding between Cherokee Nation and the United States Department of Agriculture.
I move for its adoption, Mr. Chairman.
Joe Byrd moves for its approval.
Second.
And David Thornton, second. Have any questions?
Carter,
This time.
I'm just asking, be added as a sponsor.
Okay. And Tyler Watts as a sponsor. All in, yes, Kara?
I have a couple of things. I think there's a representative from NRCS here. Would that be appropriate to recognize them at this time? I would assume that's part of why, the partnership, right? Is that gentleman here for... And then I had another question. I think under this, I've had a lot of questions about the Keep Siegel lawsuit, and the folks really want to know who received payment, and they want a full list. So as part of the cooperative agreement, I would ask we get a full list of everyone in the 14 counties who are claiming to be Cherokee Nation citizens who received monies and the amount.
I'm in opposition to that, for sure. That's nobody's business,
Yes,
whoever
yes.
was in that lawsuit.
It's not on
Yeah, that's not part of the Cherokee Nation. That's a government issue, USDA.
I have to refer that to the USDA.
Yeah.
And I am, that's why, and he's here, and so I'm just wondering if we as a government can ask for that and such, because our citizens are asking about it, and make sure and introduce him since he's here.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, that has nothing to do with our agenda here. If you want to request something as a FOIA with the United States government, Council Watch, you can do that. But
Okay, I'll do, but he's here, so can we?
Yeah, well, you
introduce
can do
him?
that at another time, but this point of order, this has nothing to do with our agenda, and NRCS didn't come here to answer those type of questions.
I was just asking too for an introduction of him, just that he's here as a partner. There was 2 separate things.
2 separate things. What are the 2 separate things?
One, he's here and he's a partner, and I assume that's why he's here is because of this agenda item, so we can just say hi and introduce him on record.
Are you here to address this?
I just came, got an invitation to show up.
And we welcome him, sir.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Delaware County, so.
Thank you.
But I can answer any questions anyone would have to my ability.
What's your name and
Michael
title?
Ramey, and I'm the District Conservationist for Delaware County.
Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
And we thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I've had a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, Lee. You have three.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a friendly correction on, under the resolved paragraph, it's United States. It's the second sentence. It is United States, it's United States. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All in favor of this resolution? Yes?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on down to announcements.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Next meeting will be November the 13th at 4 p.m. Come on, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bless the meal before we start. Would you please